Dry weather across the Northeast and northernmost mid-Atlantic states. No rain in sight into early next week. We do actually have some rain across parts of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Deep South, but it ain't coming into the Northeast. And we're going to look ahead to next week because we got a tropical system that's going to be in play. And just beyond that, we actually have the pattern changing just in time for Thanksgiving week. So there are things finally going on. And we have them going on here tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by doing your holiday shopping on the referral link of Amazon, which is pinned at the top of the chat board, or it's on the description to this podcast. It's very simple. You search, you get your stuff. Amazon will send us a little bit of coin out of their pocket for sending you there, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So we appreciate whatever support you can give us here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. First of all, I like you on the right and me on the left, not for political reasons, just for you know positioning purposes. Uh, but I want to say right off the bat, sorry about last night, folks. But for the first time in about 6 years, my the software that I use to broadcast crashed on me. And anyway, it took me about an hour to figure out what the problem was, and it was because Microsoft has to do one of their updates, and I don't have it set to automatically update because sometimes when I do, I get all sorts of weird stuff. But apparently, it screwed up some of uh, the vital parts of my software until I updated them. I updated Windows 11, and now it's working fine. So that's the bottom line. We're here, and you got another cold night ahead, Joe. You're going to miss out on some rain, although I'm not. I may actually wind up with an inch of rain here in North Georgia from this weather system coming in from the west.
The interesting thing is that tonight we may see, at least here in the lower Hudson Valley, the coldest temperatures that we've had so far this season. I actually think, Joe, that in some of the deepest and most rural valley areas north of the I-84 corridor, we may see temperatures tomorrow morning down in the upper teens, he said, maybe 19 degrees by daybreak. Most areas, though, will be in the 20s, and the urban and coastal locations probably clinging to or hovering right around the freezing mark. I have yet, by the way, here at Putnam Valley, we have yet to get below 32. We have been at 32 a couple of times, but yet to get into the 20s. We may very well do that, however, overnight tonight.
28. I've already gone down to 28 back in October
He always
uh,
beat me.
on a couple of nights. Yeah. Right now, actually, the temperature here has dropped to 52, and you could feel the wind has picked up, so it feels like a cold rain is coming. So I'm kind of excited about that because I looked back since Helene, which was back around September 27th, 28th. We have had a whopping 12 hundredths of rain since the 28th of September. I mean, that's it. So it's been bone dry. The rivers are all the way down. So an inch of rain will do us a lot of good. Now I do have breaking news, Joe. I know you're going to be really excited about this.
Okay,
Okay, are you sitting down?
I'm sitting down. What's the breaking
Okay, I'm
news?
going to put it up. I'm going. Yes, I'm going to put it up on the screen. Uh, I think it started today. It might have started yesterday, but uh, it's there today. This is courtesy of Pivotal Weather, for which I am a licensed subscriber, by the way. The European now on the 0 and 12Z runs goes out to 360 hours. How many years have we had the GFS going out to 384? And the
Right.
European, I mean, oh, it's got to be what, you know, 20 years that we've had it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the European has finally gone out to 360. So what I did was, this is the 360-hour snowfall forecast map, folks. Lock it in. A lot of lake effect showing up here on the map, in and around western New York and southwestern New York, northwest PA, northeast Ohio, also along Lake Michigan and up into the upper peninsula of Michigan. Uh, so, just to give you snow lovers a little bit of a hint of things to come, but there it is. I would not lock this in, by the way, as always, but I just wanted to show you that we go out to 360 hours now on the European. I know, Joe, that you must be thrilled to death about that.
The cheeks of my tush are clapping with joy.
Yes, and loudly.
Yes.
We are going to, just really quick. I mean, I don't know how far out you looked, but it does look like we're going to have significant pattern change, at least from the standpoint of temperatures, to a colder scheme of things toward, let's just say maybe around Thanksgiving week and and a bit beyond that. But the one thing that may not change very much is the dryness of the pattern, because it does look like it could still be just as dry uh, after we change over to a colder regime.
Well, I can tell you that the Climate Prediction Center has issued a slight risk or slight chance of excessive precipitation across all of New England and portions of eastern New York and northern New Jersey for the time frame from November 21st through November 23rd. When
Would
is
you
that?
would you like to show that?
Sure. And
That would probably time with the Arctic front and whether or not this because we do also have, by the way, potential tropical cyclone 19 in the Caribbean. So a lot of that CPC's got may depend on whether tropical moisture from this tropical system somehow gets involved. Excuse me.
there you see the what I just mentioned for the Climate Prediction Center people. They are saying or indicating that the Northeast will be seeing, or hopefully will be seeing, some significant, more than just a couple of hundredths of an inch, significant precipitation, excessive precipitation maybe, for the period from the 21st to the 23rd of November. That would be a week from tomorrow through the start of the, not next weekend, but the following weekend, the weekend
Well,
before Thanksgiving.
that no, that's today's the third to 14th. Tomorrow's the 14th, so that would be next Thursday to next Saturday.
Right, I just said not this
Oh, okay.
weekend, but the
Oh,
following
I'm
weekend.
sorry. I missed that part where you said not this weekend.
Yes.
I thought it came out in my ear like you said not next weekend, but the following weekend. So I'm thinking next weekend is the next weekend. This week was next week, last week.
Yeah, here's the thing that really will get a lot of people excited. Well, maybe not a lot, but some of you, the possibility of heavy snow, maybe not necessarily in the immediate New York area yet, but heavy snow, mostly lake effect, I would presume, the 21st to the 23rd, same time frame, across portions of Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, and also across portions of the lee side of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. That would be again for the 21st to the 23rd. And this will all be accompanied by high winds, Joe, November 21st through the 22nd of November.
What's that?
So
What's that area down in Texas and Oklahoma?
much below normal temperatures. In fact,
Ah,
I will stream that a little bit here. This would be, again, much below normal temperatures, and this would encompass a good chunk of Texas, central and eastern Texas, much of the central and southern area of Oklahoma, a good part of Arkansas, and a teeny tiny portion of the northwest corner of Louisiana, if you want to, play it to at face value. Anyway, it would appear that the Climate Prediction Center is aware of and possibly suggesting that there could be something significant around the 21st and 22nd. In fact, if you go to the Climate Prediction Center site, you will see that here's a Climate Prediction Center key message issued today, November 13th. And you know on November 13th what happened, Joe, right?
Yes, I do. Felix was thrown out of his house and moved in with Oscar.
Felix Unger's wife threw Felix out of his house.
Right,
Deep down, he knew he was right, but someday he would return to her. And actually, he did after this series ended 5 years later.
right.
Anyway, issued today, November 13, 2024, powerful storm system to bring cold temperatures, high winds, and snow to areas east of the Rockies. And in fact, here is the actual, I was going to say statement, but this is more like a news release or an announcement by the Climate Prediction Center, indicating again what we just saw, the much below normal temperatures all the way down into Texas and Oklahoma, in this broad area of high winds and snow, mostly lake effect snows across parts of the Great Lakes. So looks like it could be pretty interesting and pretty active by the time we get to the middle and latter part of next week.
All right. Anthony Orr is our first super chat hit of the night, Joe. Thank you, Anthony, for doing that. And welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. And for those of you watching in the background, to our Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And we are here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Again, I apologize for last night. We were just about to go on the air when I had a software crash. But that's all fixed now. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And if you like the show, by all means, hit the like button. We already have 47 likes, which is nice. So,
We're going to ring the
still,
bell. We're going to ring the bell, not for the likes or anything, but for Ms. Spallerite. Chemo Fog Day. She had her last treatment today, Joe. Got to ring the
yay!
bell. We're going to do that for you. So there you go. Congratulations,
That's
and
wonderful.
better things to come.
All right. Just checking the watches and warnings across the United States. I mean, this has been sort of a daily affair now for quite a while. There's not, we're always used to seeing, flash flood watches, severe weather. You get this time of year, you should start to see more and more of winter storm warnings, which we did see late last week in Colorado and New Mexico. But there really isn't a whole lot of that going on tonight. We've got two counties in northwest Washington, right near the Canadian border, that have winter storm warnings. Otherwise, it's just either frost advisories or freeze watches. I think. Let me see what these blues are in the Sierra Nevadas. That is winter weather advisories? Okay, well that's something. Um, and I like to check because in the Sierra Nevadas, they put up winter weather advisories sometimes for 2 feet or more, depending on where the elevation is. So we're talking about 1 to 4 inches on above 6,500 feet. So you have to basically be in rarefied air on the west side of Tahoe and up to 2 inches on the east side of Tahoe. Winds will be gusting to 50 miles an hour. So that's what they've got over there. And go a little further south to see what's going on. This is Mount Elizabeth. Yeah, 3 to 7 and 3 to 5. They have a winter weather advisory for this area. Mount Elizabeth, just for is 4,942 feet up. Okay. So you again, rarefied air. So it's less than an inch on Thursday. Actually, less than a half inch tonight, less than an inch on Thursday. 3 to 7 Thursday night, 3 to 5 on top of that. So that's 6 to 12. And then it just goes to snow showers after that. So anyway, a little bit on the busy side. By the way, we should also point out that the red flag warnings that have been up for the Hudson Valley, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, those have been taken down, although they do have fire risk being indicated in the special weather statement. Ken Musillo, thanks for hitting super chat. Most appreciated, Kenny. And I got your messages today, just haven't had a chance to answer. Here's what the satellite loop looks like, and it is mostly clear from Maine down to southern Georgia. Clouds are rolling in through Alabama and through Georgia and on up the Appalachians, but not quite to the northeast. If you can hold on to those clear skies long enough tonight, Joe, that's probably going to be key as to how cold you get. Uh, it looks like they're moving more north, at least for now. I mean, you look at this and you look at what's on the satellite, and we're going to take a look at what I'm going to go to the radar in a second. I just want to highlight what's going on in the Pacific Northwest because we've got more energy coming in there. As we check the radar, I mean, you look at this radar, is so loaded from north of Minnesota, okay, all the way down to the Gulf Coast. You would think you'd get something out of this, particularly because all this stuff is actually moving more south to north at the moment. But because of the high in New England and the storm that's out in Atlantic Canada that's not moving, all this stuff is going to weaken and gets squeezed to the southeast. I mean, it's really, you look at this, you think, how can you miss? But that's how you're all blocked up.
Yeah, it looks like indeed a can't miss situation. That's a pretty looks like a pretty solid area for the most part over the Midwest and the Central Great Lakes area, West Central Great Lakes area, and you figure, okay, well, then it probably will arrive here sometime in the next 12 to 18 hours. But as you point out, and the interesting thing about tomorrow, we're going to have high clouds, which are going to be lowering and thickening in the morning, and then by the afternoon it'll just be overcast. And maybe one of those kind of days where it's a gray afternoon, a gray sky, and you can make out the sun as a diffuse whitish blob against that otherwise gray mass that'll be overhead. It will be, actually, you think about it, the month of November, you think about November, that pretty much is what November weather is like. A cloudy, gray, indifferent looking sky, chilly temperatures tomorrow. Will be hard pressed to make it above 50. It'll be in the 40s much of the day. So kind of a drab day, and the only thing that's missing from this drab condition is the rain, which, as we just pointed out, Joe, not likely to make it here because it more likely will be pushed south and east of our area. And what else can I say? The drought continues.
You might get skimmed with a little bit of rain if you're in southeast PA or maybe southernmost New Jersey. Uh, Better chance maybe in the Delmarva Peninsula. Then you move down into Maryland, and especially in Virginia into North Carolina. You're going to see some rain out of this. And also the southern end of what's on the radar is going to move into Georgia, western South and western North Carolina. Uh, with maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter. We'll see what WPC is doing with this. And you can see the rain. It's in the Pacific Northwest with higher elevation snows going on. Washington State down into the Northern California and also in eastern Washington and Oregon and on up into Idaho. Storm Prediction Center tonight. We do have a marginal risk for severe weather in a small zone in southeast Mississippi, southwest, southern Alabama, and just touching the Florida Panhandle. And that actually comes with a 2% tornado risk tomorrow. No severe weather is forecast, but you can see general thunderstorm activity possible, widely scattered, I would imagine. Virginia back to southern Ohio and southeast Indiana, and then southward down to the Florida Panhandle and actually covering most of North Florida back to eastern most Alabama. And you check out the 7-day rainfall. Now, this takes us to next Wednesday night. So I'm thinking that the light precip that's being shown, I know the models were kind of trying to show a little front coming through on Monday. I didn't really give it a good look on the last run to see if the rain is still there. But that's what you see for the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states. But the rain is more substantial. Virginia, North Carolina, down to the Southeast, and particularly over Florida. Now, this is going to be what you see in Florida is going to depend a lot on what happens to this new potential tropical cyclone in the Caribbean and how it tracks and how it holds together. Also, some hefty precip uh, in the southern and central plains. through the middle and upper Mississippi Valley and the Missouri River Valley into the Great Lakes. So we've got a fairly large area of an inch and a half plus. And once again, probably I think for now the fifth or sixth day in a row, we're talking about several to many inches continuing in the Pacific Northwest. So I think this might be a good time. Let's bring up, because they should have a floater. So let's do that. Let's bring up the floater of potential tropical cyclone 19. It's actually gotten a lot better organized during the day today. And this sort of big round ball of convection. The Hurricane Center pointed out in their discussion that uh, there's and you can see there's a mid-level circulation at least. The system at the surface is on the broad side, so they're just going to probably wait for that to tighten up, and they do have this becoming a tropical depression overnight and a tropical storm during the day tomorrow. Right now, it's at 16.1 north, 79.5 west, moving west at 6 miles an hour. And they're carrying a minimum central pressure of 1,005 millibars and a maximum sustained wind of 30 miles per hour. Warning about life-threatening flash flooding in Honduras later this week and over the weekend. And this is looks like it's a little bit closer to land than what some of the models were showing back over the last couple of days. So that's going to impact uh, how it behaves down the road. And here's we do have the intensity guidance, which does a lot of the models take it up to a high-end tropical storm. We've got a few of them that take it up to a Cat 1 and a Cat 2 over the next 5 days. And as far as tracks are concerned, and we don't go out far enough here, this goes out, through next Wednesday night. So you can see that the tracks are kind of clustered very, very close to the coast here near Honduras. And then they start to vary a little bit, but pretty much taking it from there into northeast Belize and then through the Yucatan Peninsula, and then just kind of arcing it around into the Gulf of Mexico. That's kind of what the European has been doing with this particular system. And the Hurricane Center's forecast, we can bring that up for you. Uh, Hang on, come on, let's go. I don't need to see an ad for hearing aids. Thank you very much.
What'd you
But
say?
yes, exactly. But here's the Hurricane Center's forecast, and they kind of have it meandering right near the coast of Honduras for basically a day or a day and a half, and then eventually it winds up into northeastern Belize, and then from there, now that's 1 p.m. Monday, so that's as far out as they go, 120 hours. So we'll see what this does. I looked at this yesterday, yes, as far as the upper air was concerned. There's hardly any shear in the Caribbean. And actually, even in the eastern half of the Gulf of Mexico, for the most of next week, the upper air is actually quite supportive for a tropical system. The problem here now is the fact that it's so close, maybe so close to land that it won't be able to develop much beyond a tropical storm. Now, that could change, but that's basically the thinking from the Hurricane Center. And as we take a look at what the model guidance is doing, actually, let me. The European, by the way, is not on tropical tidbits out to 360 hours yet. There he still has it only out to 240, but I just want to show you this. Just going to take a look at the upper air going forward. And of course, you see this upper low tonight in northern Missouri moving east, but take a look on the right where you could see the western side of this Atlantic storm. It's not moving, it's going nowhere. The ridge is getting basically squeezed, and that upper low is just getting forced southeastward into West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina, completely underneath the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states. And then, of course, it kind of pivots around that ocean storm. So if you want to know why you could have such a vigorous system not produce anything, well, you got a blocking ocean storm and the high that's in between it, just forcing it to go southeast. If this were the wintertime, the snow lovers would be cutting their throats because all the snow would be down in Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina, and you wouldn't see a flake or an ice pellet.
Oh well.
New deep trough in the west. That moseys along. We get another ridge over the weekend into early next week, and then we've got the system that drops down out of Canada come Monday. So that might be the reason why WPC has some rain maybe for later Sunday night through the first part of Monday with some showers with that. And then as we move through later in the week, and this is another thing that's puzzling me. Okay, look at the depth of this trough at the. Now this is next Thursday. Okay, so you kind of can see why CPC has the big cold going down into Oklahoma and Texas. But what I can't understand is if there's a tropical system with a south-southwest flow, how can it not move, move up with an upper flow like this, if that's right?
You got a good point.
I mean, that's a really very impressive model. The models have been, the European and the GFS have been kind of one locked on to this for days now in terms of this vigorous upper trough that's coming. And of course, it does drive a stake through the heart of the southeast ridge. But as we move along, eventually, now this only goes out to 240. I'm going to switch over to the GFS, and you can see that the GFS is robust, but in a different way. The upper low is a little further north, but still has the same idea here. Again, with that south-southwest flow, how can we not get some of that tropical moisture from the tropical storm? I'm just putting it out there. And then, once the that one trough lifts out, looks like another one comes down behind it. So this won't be just a shot of cold air that'll eventually come in. Now we're talking dates. We're talking, this is next Thursday, and this is also going to be the setup for that lake effect that you brought up before. And then it looks like there could be a follow up over that weekend into Thanksgiving week. But Thanksgiving week looks at least to start off cold. This will not be a cold shot that will just go in and out in one day. This may actually last for 4 or 5 days if it plays out like this.
And who knows, it may also be rather windy through that 4 or 5 day period because CPC also has a broad area of strong winds accompanying all of the precipitation and cold temperatures. So, it's going to be a triple shot, so to speak: wind, cold, and precip. And again, some of that for some folks will be snow. And it wasn't just a couple of years ago, 2, 3 years ago, just before Thanksgiving. It was in November that places like Buffalo was buried with like 2 and 3 feet of snow.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we're looking at another scenario like that. But I do want to throw a little bit of hope out to those who are saying, "Oh my God, I can't remember how dry it was, as dry as this, and what does this mean about precip and rain and snow for the winter?" On Rob Friedewitz's, and if you have not had a chance to see this page, it's the Starry Eye .typepad.com/weather. The starryeye.typepad.com/weather. And this is put together by a gentleman by the name of Rob Friedewitz, who has to be the most fanatical climatologist of New York City weather that I have ever seen. And I strongly, each day he comes up with a look at what has happened on this date in history. And today, November 13th, and again, for those of you who are saying, my goodness, has it ever been this dry before? On this day in 1924, it was a Thursday, November 13th, he writes, "This was the 36th day in a row with no measurable rainfall, the longest dry spell on record, a record that still stands, I might add. The previous record was 27 days, set 40 years earlier in September of 1884. Now, in case you're wondering, well, that's 1924, November 13th. What was the winter like for 1924, 1925? Did we get much of any snow? And as it turns out, in November a trace. December, 9 tenths of an inch. Not much to build on if you're looking for a white Christmas. But then in January of 1925, 27.4 inches of snow, followed by 1.3 inches in February and just a trace of snow in March and April. But 27.4 inches pretty much was the winter, the whole winter. Now, I didn't look at any weather maps, but I'm sure that to get that much snow in a single month, they had to have at least one giant, if not a couple of moderately large snowfalls to get that much snow. But again, this is coming off of a period, again, where they had record dry conditions spanning October and November, very much like what we are going through right now. So, and as I mentioned before then, in 1884, September of 1884, they had 27 days without any measurable precipitation. So if we want to look at 1884, 1885 winter, all of you snow lovers wondering about what happened then, we had in that particular season 10.6 inches of snow in December, only 4.6 inches in January, and then 14.5 inches in February. So what I'm saying is, and please don't hold me to this, but again, out of curiosity, I'm looking at two periods where exceptionally dry conditions occurred in the previous fall or autumn months, very much like what we're seeing right now. And in both of those years, 1884-85 and 1924-25, there were at least some significant or substantial snowfall. Both of those winters had at Central Park about 30 inches of snow, which is close to the norm now. So there is hope. I mean, it's not,
Oh yeah, of
it's not
course.
it's not impossible that,
No.
we can get some significant snow even with the pattern that we're in now. And as Joe has pointed out, there apparently is some kind of a pattern change or a break in the overall pattern that we've gone through coming up beginning sometime later next week. And who knows, that may change the pattern not only for the rest of the month of November, but maybe for as we move into the upcoming winter season as well. We'll see.
Well, let's go back to the GFS with this system for Thursday, which we said gets all shoved out underneath. Some rain gets into, you see the rain spreads to Ohio, West Virginia, the darker greens all the way down into Georgia, and then that shifts over into Virginia, North Carolina. Some rain northwest to some parts of southeast. Southeast PA is kind of on the edge, and then it gets into Maryland and Delaware, but it all drives southeastward. But as you pointed out earlier, tomorrow's going to be one of those really gray-looking days with the high clouds coming in and sun dimly visible at best. And then, of course, this is going to bring us back to a northerly wind for Friday and Saturday. So any warm up is going to be, with more sunshine, your temperatures will go up, but don't expect them to go up very far. We're not in that mode of sending temperatures back up into the 80s. And there is this cold front Sunday night into Monday morning, and you can see that the model does generate some showers uh, as it goes by. Not a lot, but maybe that's why WPC's got that tenth of an inch. Meanwhile, out in the west, you've got another wave of energy coming into the Pacific Northwest. There's also a cutoff down off the Baja Peninsula, and that produces a low in West Texas, and maybe even a little bit of snow in New Mexico. That low runs up into Minnesota and the western lakes, and gradually, as that colder air, that the upper air pattern starts to develop with that deepening trough, you start to see colder air coming into the Dakotas and Minnesota and Iowa, and eventually snow spreading down even into northern Missouri. That's the whole upper low. Now, here's the GFS tonight, where if you look down on the bottom there, where the Yucatan Peninsula is, it brings this tropical system across it into the Southwest Gulf, and then it starts to develop it again as it heads toward the Florida Big Bend, and lifts it up with a front that comes up. So it actually does bring, on this particular run, it does bring some remnant of this up the coast with maybe a 6 hour heavy rainfall. Then it goes out, and then of course it turns colder behind it, and you start to see the lake effect that takes hold for next weekend. I think this, in one form or another, I think this is going to happen. We probably have to, obviously the fine tuned details we couldn't give you now, but this whole idea of this pattern change to a colder pattern does look like it's going to happen starting late next week and then going beyond that into Thanksgiving week, because it does look like it stays pretty cold. And here's that second trough that brings snow, lake effect snows for Sunday into Monday of Thanksgiving week, and then Thanksgiving week itself. The snow lovers are going to look at this too in the long range. It shoots out a low from Texas into West Virginia, and there's blue in northern Pennsylvania and the Hudson Valley and Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts here for the day before Thanksgiving. I don't know, Joe. Should we lock it in now?
I don't know. You want to lock in that snow hurricane that they were projecting a few days ago?
Well, look. I'll just say this. I mean, I want to. It'll be interesting to see how the whole tropical system evolves. I mean, if it goes in over, stays tucked in over land, I don't know what you're going to wind up having left when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. But if you've got some intact system that gets out in the Gulf, again, I go back to this deep upper trough. It's hard for me to visualize how you cannot get some of that in a south-southwest flow that sets up for Wednesday and Thursday of next week. How some of that moisture doesn't ride up the eastern seaboard. That would be a shock to me. I mean, so I'm just gonna lay it out there how it looks as we're 216 hours out. So I'm sure we'll see more changes with this going forward. But it is something to keep an eye on. The only thing and it's an important thing that's working against it is the fact that we are in a horribly dry pattern, and as I've been saying for a while now, dry begets dry. And it looked like this system for Thursday, for tomorrow, back last week, was going to be a big, robust system for rain in the Northeast. And obviously, that's not happening. So it could find a way not to happen for next week.
You're absolutely right. I mentioned yesterday that we were talking about how, last week we were saying, oh, well, there may be some precipitation for later Sunday or Sunday night, but the real chance of getting a lot of precip is with this storm system that's coming our way for Thursday. And believe it or not, the system that we weren't thinking much of did give us about 2/10 of an inch. And now the system that we were promoting last week, as you just mentioned, Joe, has looked to be a pretty darn good precipitation maker. Is now looking more and more like it's not going to give us a drop. So that's the way things go. So you're right. What looks good now for later next week, we'll see what happens. We'll see whether or not we do get anything out of it for later next week as we get closer to the event.
Now, I didn't get any messages from Scott Briller. Did you?
I did get a Briller Jeopardy, and I said to him, I said, if I'm not mistaken, I did Briller Jeopardy, and it's Joe's turn. And all he sent back to me was, "You're right. I'm getting old."
Uh,
But
well,
but but I
I
still have the Briller Jeopardy questions, unless you want to wait until he sends
well,
you a batch.
no, 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 no. Because I hate Facebook. I really do. They have now decided. So I pulled up Scott's chat. Okay, I pull up Scott's chat and I look at it, and there's nothing. The last thing I have from him was back in June. And it says some of your messages are missing. If I want to restore those messages, to click on the link, and I do, and it's asking me for a pin. Okay, I have never set up a pin for my messenger, so now it wants. I'm trying to get a one-time code. This is really. Hold on a second. I got to get my phone to put this stupid code in. One moment.
I did that yesterday, by the way. that they were telling me that I had to get it restored. I did that actually on my wife's laptop, and now it's doing the same thing to me now, but I'm working off of my desktop.
That's such
I,
nonsense. And of course, I'm looking on my phone now, and there's nothing here as far as the code is concerned. Let me hit resend code. Okay. Nope. I have nothing. So why don't you do it? I do have an email that wants to know if I want to conquer my cholesterol by brushing my teeth.
Hey,
So
that sounds
there's so there's that. Um, nope, I don't have an Amazon. I don't have a code from these idiots at Facebook.
all right.
So you do it.
All right. So here we go. So this is for high temperatures in November. We continue on that note in the following cities. High temperatures in November, Joe, starting with Providencia, Providence, Rhode Island.
Um, Average high for Providence? Is that what we're
Yes,
doing? I'm sorry.
in November. Average
53.
highs in Providence. What did you say?
53. 53.
53. Right on the nose. Starting off right tonight, Joe. You got it. 53 degrees.
Okay.
How about number two? Salt Lake City.
Oh my God. I have no idea.
Well, we already have a
Um,
winner. We already have a winner on the chat board, John Melander.
oh good,
51.
he saved me. I was gonna say 50, but I wasn't sure. It was either that or go into the 40s.
All right. Well, then we can move on to Seattle.
Um, Seattle. Um,
Average high temperature in Seattle in the month of November.
I'll say 49.
A reasonably good guess, but not quite high enough. Chuck
Okay.
Cardillo is in Snake Country with 54. Frank R is in Snake Country with 52. So what does that tell you, Joe?
I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get this stupid code.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, no. What was your question? What was it?
Norm
What did
Roberts got it with 53.
53?
53
Okay. I'm
Seattle.
sorry. I'm being bad. I should just curse Facebook out and just forget about it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm paying attention now.
All right, how about Tampa?
How about Tampa? Um, hmm, I'll say, oh God, Florida is so tough. I'll say 80.
Very close, Joe. Snake Country again. Patrick Darcy, though, got it with 79. And Northern Grace, 79. And anybody else get 79? Yes. Mike Waterhouse Bonsai at 79. So there you go. That was Tampa's average November high temperature. Finally, nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Washington,
Uh,
D.C. is always filled with hot air.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say 55.
Double nickels? No, not high enough.
Oh, it's higher than that.
James Davidson is in Snake Country with 60.
So I'm going to say, and is Vincent Croce at 58 in Snake Country?
Rich Wasmansky is also in Snake Country with 58. So what does that tell you?
That's 59, which is what Chuck Cardillo got and Dennis Cassia got.
Yes, congratulations, Dennis, 2 days after your birthday. And here's the bonus. The bonus question, or the bonus answer. It is 30. Ah,
Why? What's so funny?
I was about to say the answer. I was about to. The bonus question is International Falls, Minnesota. All right.
Oh, okay. Um, few people are putting up 30 something,
Yeah, exactly.
which is I'll say I'll split the difference. I'll say 35
How about being in snake country? You're within one.
again. So it's either
And
36 or 34.
Rich
Um,
Lefmansky, state country with 33. So
so Mike Waterhouse and Carol DeCara got 34. Is that it?
you got it.
Unbel
34.
Unbelievable. Oh, after 4 tries, Facebook finally sent me the code. So I was able to restore my chat, but they made me make a pin, even though they said that you won't have to use the pin once you set it up that way. It's like, what's the point then?
There was once on What's My Line, Steve Allen was the mystery guest on What's My Line. And they're going through the questioning of whatever, trying to, they were, the people on the panel were blindfolded, so they couldn't see it was Steve Allen. And after two or three questions, John Daly, who was the moderator, said, "No, you're wrong, Mr. Allen." And then he just outright said who was sitting there next to him.
Oh,
And it was the only time he's ever done something like that in like 17 and a half years. And trying to overlook it, Bennett Cerf, who was one of the panelists, said, "Are you a comedian?" And Steve Allen said, "I'm not as funny as John was just now."
oh God. So we've got 85 likes tonight. We're getting we had a decent sized audience. I guess everybody's getting concerned that they're going to have to make their own rain somehow.
Well, we've got this game's of a potentially active week coming up, so we're beating the toms and getting people all excited about possibly maybe next week we'll be hitting 100 with regularity again.
Well, we'll see. All right, we're done. So we're back tomorrow, last day of the week before we take Friday and Saturday off and come back on Sunday. So we will see you all tomorrow night. Have a safe night and a good day on Thursday. Bye bye.
Buy bonds.